If you've been scrolling through endless speaker lists, listening to the same old best-of videos, and still feel like you're one step away from a decision, this review is here to clear the fog. You're probably wondering whether a floor-standing set from a legacy brand actually translates into everyday listening pleasure, or if you'll end up with a pricey piece of furniture that sounds great only on paper. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's dig into the Klipsch Heritage Series Heresy IV pair in Satin Black Ash and see if they earn that final nod. First off, the Heresy IV isn't a minimalist bookshelf speaker pretending to be a floor stander. At 45 inches tall, these units sit prominently in a living room layout, and the satin black ash finish gives a modern twist to the classic Klipsch look. The size matters because it determines how much air movement they can generate, and that directly affects the low-end impact you'll feel while watching an action movie or listening to a vinyl-recorded jazz band. In real-world use, the sheer presence of the cabinets means you'll notice a fuller bass response without having to add a subwoofer for most average-size rooms. Now, who should actually consider these speakers? If you're the type of listener who enjoys a wide soundstage for surround-like immersion, think sports broadcasts, blockbuster soundtracks, or orchestral recordings, then the Heresy IVs are built with that experience in mind. The new K702 mid-range compression driver, paired with a Tractrix horn, is designed to spread sound evenly across a 110-degree horizontal plane. In practice, you'll find that dialogue stays clear even when you're sitting off-axis on a couch, and a stereo piano will feel like it's sitting right in front of you rather than being pinched between two-point sources. For people who spend hours streaming high-resolution tracks or who have a decent DAC and want a speaker that can translate that detail without an additional amp, the Heresy IV's high-efficiency network does the heavy lifting, meaning you won't need a massive, high-power amplifier to get them sounding their best. Conversely, if your budget is tighter and you're mainly listening to background TV or casual pop playlists, you might want to look elsewhere. Their price point places them squarely in the premium segment, and while the best-in-class efficiency claim sounds appealing, it also implies that you are paying for a design that has been fine-tuned for accurate, high-fidelity reproduction. That level of detail is most rewarding when paired with quality source material. If most of your music comes from compressed streaming services, you could still enjoy their sound, but the incremental benefit over a solid mid-range floor stander would be less noticeable. A practical strength that shows up in everyday life is the integration of the K107 Ti titanium diaphragm high-frequency driver. Titanium offers a balanced response, which translates to crisp highs without the shrillness you sometimes hear from cheaper tweeters. In my own test setup, a mid-size living room with a standard 7-foot listening distance, the highs on a live acoustic guitar were articulate, and the cymbals in a drum kit didn't scream. The wide dispersion design means you get that sparkle even if you're not sitting dead center, which is a real advantage when your seating arrangement isn't a perfect triangle. Another real-world advantage is that designed and assembled in the USA claim. While it sounds like a marketing line, the implication is tighter quality control and compatibility with North American power standards. I've seen anecdotal reports of European-made speakers encountering grounding issues when used with certain amps, so having a domestic build can spare you from that hidden hassle. This also often means that replacement parts like speaker grills or replacement drivers are more readily available, should you ever need them. On the flip side, there are a few practical weaknesses to acknowledge. The sheer footprint of the Heresy IVs can be a challenge in smaller apartments. Even with the sleek ash veneer, the cabinets are deep enough that you'll need to keep clearance behind them for proper airflow. If you're planning to place them directly against a wall, you may notice a slight boominess in the low frequencies after a few minutes of playback, a common trait of larger floor standers without rear venting. Adding a small piece of acoustic foam behind each speaker or moving them a few inches forward can mitigate this, but it's an extra step the average buyer might overlook. Another consideration is the required amplifier power. Although the high-efficiency network alleviates the need for a massive amp, you still need an amp that can comfortably drive 4-ohm loads at decent volume levels, especially if you're going to fill a larger room. Pairing these speakers with a low-power integrated amp might result in the need to crank volume higher, which can introduce hiss or distortion from the amp itself, effectively shifting the blame away from the speakers. For those who already own a modest amp, it may be worth checking the specs to ensure you're not pushing the amp beyond its sweet spot. The value proposition, beyond the headline specs, really comes from how these speakers integrate into a system you already own or plan to build. If you already have a quality turntable, a DAC,